give a brief introduction about me in terms of why CIPM course and why should you choose InfosecTrain. And we will be reviewing some of the important topics in, sorry, there's a typo, it's CIPM and the CIPM relevance to DPDP Act and exam strategy to clear this exam in 30 days and CIPM exam mock questions and also some data privacy interview questions. So this is my agenda. I'll keep it very short. About InfosecTrain, this institution has been started from 2016. It's a pioneer when it comes to information security and data privacy trainings. These are endorsements, okay, and our trusted partners. Why InfosecTrain, okay, and we'll get started, okay, because I want to spend a quality time in explaining all important things. So these are the different certifications that exist for data privacy. Okay, and the first variant is your CIPP, which is Certified Information Privacy Professional, and what we focus is GDPR, which is CIPPE. Okay, so this certification gives you a background about data privacy law, especially GDPR, which is considered as a gold standard around the world. Okay, I usually tell all my candidates who is pursuing a career in data privacy to first start with a solid understanding of a law. Okay, it's a foundation for you to launch yourself into a data privacy career. Okay, so once you understand the law, then it's about applying that knowledge into a data privacy program. Okay, so that course is what we look at CIPM. CIPM is a Certified Information Privacy Manager. It's a leadership directed certification because with CIPM you will be looked at a data privacy manager or a data protection officer in the ranks. Okay, it is very much equivalent to your CISSP and CISM. Okay, so if you know those two certifications, that those are very much in the manager and above level certification, right? But this certification also is there doesn't carry any prerequisite. If you look at any information security certification, it will have some prerequisite like you need 5 years of experience, right? And other prerequisite might be there. But for CIPM, fortunately, there is no prerequisite, which means if you study the course and clear this exam, we are right away qualified as a certified information privacy manager. Okay. So this is suitable for anyone who has just even completed the college. They can clear this exam, right? But I generally suggest that you need to have some hands-on experience before moving into any accountable role like a data privacy officer or a data privacy manager. Okay, and CIPT is a Certified Information Privacy Technologist, and this is a very interesting course on how privacy tech professional handle data privacy program as well as embed data privacy design into the overall organization day-to-day work. Okay, I'm conducting another webinar in next 2 days. I'm focusing that for CIPT. So if anyone is interested, you can join to know more about CIPT course in next 2 days. It will be on Wednesday. Okay, and if you complete CIPPE plus CIPM or CIPT, either of one, so you will be showcasing minimum of 3 years of experience. Then you will be able to get this accreditation, which is Fellow of Information Privacy. It's a very prestigious accreditation. Okay, once you have it, definitely you will be among the ranks of very few people which who have this accreditation right now. Okay, so this is the different set of certification that we have from IAPP. IAPP is the pioneer institution when it comes to data privacy certifications. Okay, so why should someone pursue CIPM? So CIPM is a global industry standard for privacy leadership. Okay, you can check that yourself when you go to European Union, or if you go to any other country as well. If you want to get into middle management or senior roles, CIPM will be usually set as a benchmark. Okay, because this is where your hands-on understanding of how do you build a privacy program comes into picture, right? So that is the reason this certification has a very great value in the market. And achieving this credential demonstrate that you're a leader in privacy program administration, and you have and you got the goods to establish, maintain, and manage a privacy program across all stages of its life cycle, right? And you'll be recognized as part of a elite group of knowledgeable, capable, and dedicated data protection practitioners. Okay, and so this certification plus CIPPE is generally considered as a TPO ready certification, which is Data Protection Officer ready, right? And trust me, in India as well as globally, if you want to become a data protection officer, they will definitely keep these two certification as a prerequisite. Okay, and CAPM is a key benchmark among top employers for hiring and promoting privacy managers as well as data protection officer. Okay, so that is why this certification has a lot of weightage. If you are thinking of upskilling yourself or you want to enter into data privacy zone, this certification is definitely gonna help you in terms of pushing your profile into a positive selection criteria. CAPM introduction and coverage. Okay, and what you will learn in this course, you're going to learn in terms of how to operationalize privacy, turning your policy into program, right? And so you will be making your data privacy regulations work for your organization by understanding how to implement them on a day-to-day basis, right? So you'll be learning how to build a data privacy program from scratch by defining your privacy vision, mission, framework, your policies, your procedures, your strategy, right? And then slowly moving into your different governance model. Then you will be implementing the controls into the personal data lifecycle, right? And this exam has 90 questions, out of which 75 are scored, and rest are psychometric questions. And you have a total time of 2.5 hours. There is no prerequisite required for you to give this exam. Okay, you can take this exam either in online or you can take it in an exam center. Okay, so once you have purchased this exam, you have a total validity of 1 year to give this exam, and you will get only one attempt for your when once you purchase the exam. Okay, and the total cost of writing this exam is $550. Okay, and once you clear the certification, you will be required to pay either $250 as a certification maintenance fee or $275 as a membership fee. There is a difference between that. $250 is just a maintenance fee. You will not get access to any of the IAPP materials. Okay, whereas $275 is for a 1 year membership fee, which includes access to all the IAPP materials. With the $250, you will not get access. It is for the period of 2 years, but $275 is you will get access for everything, but the validity is for 1 year. So this is the basic difference. So anyways, you have to minimum spend $800 for you to successfully write this exam and get the certification. Okay, so once you clear the certification, you have to pay either $250 or $275. So this is what you do when you look at the IAPP website. This is the numbers that you have to purchase for clearing this exam. Okay, so don't worry, I'll be having some good news for in terms of what we offer from InfosecTrain at later point of time. Okay, so after you do this, you have to maintain something called CP credits. Okay, which you have to maintain every 2 years cycle. You have to maintain 20 CP credits. So that is quite easy to maintain, which you need to just read articles. When you join a session also, you get around 13 CP credits. So there are a lot of ways to easily get CP credits. Okay, and why InfosecTrain? This is a very important slide. I want to make it a difference. Okay, and we have 32 hours of instructor-led training. Okay, but we'll not be able to give you any recorded session because recordings are all IAPP's intellectual property. We will be using the IAPP's official slides and materials, whatever they provide. So the training is facilitated with IAPP materials. Okay, so this is the guaranteed lower price. You can check anywhere in the market. This is the best price that you will see whenever it comes to data privacy training with 32 hours of training. And so I'm the approved and certified instructor with FIP, and we'll definitely have a lot of conversations related to career oriented and skill based. How do you tune yourself? How do you upgrade yourself? All these discussions do happen with me, and we also include a mock test, and we will be giving part of the package in terms of IAPP ebook plus the notes, which is the participants guide, an exam voucher plus 1 year membership fee. So these are all included part of the standard package. And what is a key differentiator? This is a very practical and quality preparation with sufficient time to understand Generally, if you see any other vendors, they take it for 12 hours or 16 hours maximum. But this courses definitely need a lot of time for you to digest the concepts and apply it. So you will have a lot of time to discuss, ask questions, understand, and I'll be sharing a lot of useful templates. How do you do it hands-on going forward? So it will be very discussion-driven sessions with me. Okay. So I'll give you ample of time every session to ask questions, and this is how my sessions are generally done. So it will be case study based approach, and there will be exam strategy session. How to clear this exam? I'll be giving you inputs, and also I'll be supporting you till the day you clear the exam with whatever help you need. I'll be supporting you because the group will always remain active. So we will always work as a team, and definitely all of you will be succeeding with definitely with the required effort. Okay. I'll also be supporting you in terms of career guidance. So I will not be supporting in any type of job assistance or anything. I'll be very, very honest with you. Anyone who tells that in the market also, it's impossible to do that. Okay. So I will be helping you to equip yourself with the right amount of knowledge as well as the skill set that will definitely help yourself to get a job. Okay. So I'll be very transparent with that. So this is the course fee which we are going to launch. So 49,000 plus 49,500 plus taxes. Okay. Our upcoming batches are starting on 9 December. Okay, till 6th of January. It will be all on weekend. Okay, and this will be between 9 a.m. To 1 p.m. Indian Standard Time. Okay, this price is only for the Indian based candidates because the pricing will vary from geography to geography. Okay, so this 49,500 plus taxes is only for people from India. So anyone else, we have to inquire us. So we will tell you there'll be some variation when it comes to if you're trying to take the training from other regions outside India. Okay. I'll be first starting with the relevance of CIPM to the DPDP Act. Okay, how will this certification will be helpful for me to work in the new upcoming, not upcoming, actually it has been already enacted, and only the rules are being awaited, right? So once the rules comes out, it will be sort of a mandatory requirement for every organization to manage their personal data which is collected by the organization, right? So this certification is actually a law agnostic course, which means CIPM is applicable to any law around the world, right? If you get the certification, you can work as a data privacy manager for any particular law in the world, right? This is a regulation and legal agnostic course, right? In this course, we will not only see GDPR, we will be looking into other laws as well, right? But in my training, I'll try to give you a lot of assistance towards comparison between the Indian DPDP Act. How will you mold these concepts towards the Indian DPDP Act as well? Okay, so how this is relevant to the Indian law, because whatever we see in this journey of data privacy program implementation, this has the exact plan or a blueprint what we will do part of the course as well, right? So in this course we have the course divided into two important major blocks. One will be the governance of a privacy program. Okay, and how will you understand the different legal regulatory requirements, plus the personal data lifecycle aspect. Okay, if I divide this course into two major blocks, these are the two divisions, right? So this is exactly what we will do part of any data privacy program implementation, fulfilling the DPDP Act as well, right? If we have, for example, if you have to implement this requirement for a company, you will always start with understanding the business landscape of the organization, right? You need to understand the business. You need to see what is the personal data collection that happens, right? And what are the different channels that we operate, and what kind of personal data subjects we have. It could be customers, it could be employees, it could be third parties. There are multiple personal data that is collected from different stakeholders, right? And this is what we first do as a first step, understanding your business environment. And second is identify your legal and regulatory and contractual requirements, right? Once you understand what is applicable to you, as an entity, what is your legal and regulatory requirement, right? You may always think it's only Indian DPDP Act. It's not, it may not be true. By the nature of your business, you may be even liable for other data privacy law around the world. Maybe if you are providing goods and services for other countries, then you may attract other data privacy laws, or maybe other regulatory requirements as well, right? So we need to and we need to assess our role as a controller and processor, right? So what will be our role? Our role will be keep changing according to the processing activity, right? So these fundamentals we learn in depth when we come to the CIPM course. And once we know our legal regulatory requirement, we'll be doing a detailed gap assessment, identifying the privacy risk as well as the posture of our organization, right? This is a very important step if you have to implement a privacy program, right? We call it as a state, okay, or the current state assessment. So majority of the organization would have not developed a plan. They don't have any developed policy procedures. They do not have a strategy or like a whatever prerequisite or the mandatory requirement for you to comply as a controller or a processor obligation as per the legal requirement, right? So all these things will be identified using your gap assessment, and also it helps you to identify the controls that will be required part of the personal data lifecycle, right from your collection, right from the different processing activity we do, the archival, storage, your destruction and disposal. We will be looking at what are the privacy control requirements that will be required to protect the data in the entire data lifecycle. Even that will be completely assessed part of your gap assessment. Then you will be developing the policy procedures. When we say procedure, we have to look at every aspect of your personal data handling within the organization. We will be developing all the corresponding procedures, and we will be defining your roles and responsibility part of your privacy policy, and also your governance structure. You will be conducting your training and awareness to all the employees, and you need to make people understand. It's a cultural shift what we are looking at in data privacy. So you need to make them understand how the law will affect each and everyone's role and what is at stake, right? Because the penalties what we see for any kind of deviation or any kind of non-compliance is very very stringent, right? Not only with the Indian law, with the global laws as well. Like in GDPR we have 20 million euros or 4% of the annual turnover. Like in Indian law we have 250 million 250 crores. All these are very very big numbers, right? So that's why the data privacy training and awareness becomes a very very important step. And we'll be developing a personal data inventory and a data flow diagram as well as data protection controls. It's a very very important step, right? So what gives us the visibility of the organization is usually done with the inventory, right? Your inventory of personal data, where the data comes into the organization, how it is being handled, who handles this, which application uses it, who are the people who have access to it, right? What is the lawful basis for collection, whose data it is, to whom we are sharing. This entire visibility is what we call through the records of processing activity. We call it as ROPA, or data inventory in short. Okay, so this is very very important step. With this, you can actually do a lot of other subsequent activity with a lot of effectiveness. If this step is not done properly, then it will have a problem in each and every subsequent step that we will do further, right? And we will be conducting DPIA. This will be mandated whenever we are bringing any processing activity. Either it could be a product, or it could be a new service, or it could be any activity that we're going to do in the organization. And if it handles personal data, and if it falls within certain triggers, then we have to do a data protection impact assessment. The same is the logic with Indian law or the GDPR. Wherever we go, the terminologies could little differ. We may call it as privacy impact assessment, we may call it as data protection impact assessment. The intent and logic remains the same. Okay, and managing the data subject rights, and that's a very very pivotal part. We go to any law in the world, it will always have data subject rights. The reason is the very nature of creating a data privacy law in any country is to enable the data subjects. End of the day, you are empowering the common people, right? That is done via data subject rights. Okay, that is why data subject rights management is a common element across any data privacy law in the world, right? And data breach management, again a very very common thing across any data privacy laws in the world, right? There will be mandate given by the laws. For example, GDPR has 72 hours cutoff to inform the controller. Similarly, every law will have specific mandate when you need to inform the data subject, when you need to inform the authorities, and what are the requirements to inform them, what is a breach. All these things we will be discussing in detail in terms of a data breach management. Okay. And implementing continuous program and monitoring with metrics. The last stage is that we are building a program, so the program has to be continuously moving forward in the right direction over year on year, right? It will not be possible for you to build everything within the first 6 months and 1 year, right? Initially you will be doing a lot of manual process. Going forward, based on the volume of the personal data handled in the organization, you may be pushing towards automating a lot of stuff, right? So there is a continuous improvement that is going to be built part of the data privacy program, right? If you see this entire structure, what I said is exactly similar what we are going to do part of the CIPM course, as well as what is required from the DPDP Act as well. Okay, so in this is what we are going to do as a privacy manager going into any organization. Either from scratch we are going to build a program, or we are going to actually start embedding or going to improve an existing program, right? So the logic remains the same, the role remains the same, and that's why I said this course has a lot of relevance for anyone who wants to start working as a data privacy manager in the future. This is the privacy operational life cycle. Okay, and this has a lot of relevance towards the course as well. Okay, and as I told you, the course is divided into two important components. Okay, and the first part is the governance, which we studied in terms of the how do you create the policy, procedure, framework, governance structures, and everything. And the second part is the personal data life cycle. It has four important stages: assess, protect, sustain, and respond. Assess stage is in terms of how do you build the inventory of the organization, which is your personal data inventory, and how do you assess the organization in terms of conducting a DPIA, PIA, transfer impact assessment, your legitimate impact assessment. So there are multiple transfer impact assessment. There are multiple assessment that is done in the course of a privacy program. That is part of your assess stage. And part of the protect, once you have assessed the organization gaps, you need to protect the personal data lifecycle with the relevant controls. That is what we do part of protect. This is where we do it administrative controls like policies, procedures, or we go into the technical controls where we will be implementing your access control rights in terms of your multi-factor authentication. We'll be doing your pseudonymization, anonymization, masking. All these are your technical controls, right? This will be the protect stage. Then next is the sustain phase, where we will be continuously monitoring the organization, conducting audits, and we will be defining the metrics of how do we evaluate the organization, right? And we will be then looking into the respond phase. Respond phase is in terms of how do you respond to the data subject rights management, as well as how do you respond to a data breach management regarding, right? So this is all about the entire data lifecycle. All right, so this is the exact course pattern as well what we are looking at. This is the data governance. Okay, in the data governance I like to highlight two important things. One is a centralized model, and second is the local or decentralized model. The third model is called as a hybrid model. Okay, so with the three models, you can choose the model which is most applicable to the organization philosophy, the nature of the organization, how it works, right? So what kind of model is more suitable? For example, centralized model is the one where the decision is taken by a central team or a single member. It could be a DPO, it could be a global DPO, anyone who actually takes as a team or a single person who takes the decision, and rest of the organization just cascades the instruction and they just fulfill that. This is called centralized model. This works best for a large organization which doesn't have independent roles at a lower level of organization, where everyone just simply follows the instruction and there is no flexibility in terms of changing it at a lower level, right? We call it as a top down approach. And the second is the local or decentralized model. This is a very good model for small companies which there is a flat hierarchy, right? where the decision is taken at a lower level. Everyone is collaborating, they work together, they build this, and they will be working together the decisions and as well as implementing the program. So startups and small companies, as well as wherever we have a flat hierarchy, this is more of a bottom up approach, right? The next third model is a hybrid model, which is like there is a central office and there is a regional office. The central office and regional office work together. For example, a company works for multiple regulations, and the company will be creating the global practices, which will be sort of which will be common for all the regulations as such as a minimum best practices. Then regional offices will be fine tuning their practices to the corresponding local laws. For example, there is a conglomerate or a very big company which operates in multiple countries. So there will be a global privacy office that will be creating the minimum baseline requirements, and then the global office will be rolling out the requirement, pushing these requirements to the regional offices. So, for example, regional offices in India, then in the Indian office will fine tune the framework and everything to the Indian DPDP Act, right? So this model is called as a hybrid model, where there is a flexibility between both top down and bottom up. There is interaction between both the stakeholders, right? And it's a combination that works whenever you have a different decision making within the hierarchy of the organization, right? So this is what we call it as a privacy governance model, and this we have to choose as per the organization structure. What I'm going to do is just highlight few of the topics. We will not be having time to run through all of them. Okay. The next one is the data privacy framework. Okay, so if you look at this is just a illustration of your data privacy framework, and it has a lot of important components, right? It includes all your important procedural component, whatever is mandatory as per the controller and processor obligations, right? And once you build all these capabilities, then you will be building the core integration with the different requirements which is there within the organization, right? This is just an illustration of how do you build a data privacy framework, and all these things are very essential and important component that starts with understanding your different legal and regulatory requirements. Okay. In this we will be not just sticking with one particular regulation. As I told you, our course is a legal and regulation agnostic. So we will be looking at multiple laws around the world. We will be looking at some of the core aspects of the Canadian PIPDA law, Californian CCPA, Chile, Brazil, as well as Indian DPDP Act, Australian Act, China. So we will be in one particular chapter, we will be looking at the flavors of some of the other global laws, right? There are some nuances which is very very specific to certain law. For example, Brazilian law has a unique requirement that every company which handles personal data needs to have a mandatory data protection officer, correct? And like that, every law has some unique requirements. Okay. And these things we will be covering in detail when we deal that particular course. And there are common elements across any regulation that we take, right? So this is what I was saying when people ask me this question, Jay, what if I study CIPPE, how does it be applicable to the Indian law? And I used to say the answer, which is like, what if you study one law in detail, you can always apply that knowledge to any other data privacy law in the world, right? So all the data privacy regulation have 70 to 80% of commonalities, right? So that commonalities is what we are trying to understand with these global best practice certifications, right? If you look at the common elements, like you need to give a privacy notice before collecting personal data, consent as a lawful basis, how do you handle consent, when you need a consent, what are the consent attributes, right? How do you protect and safeguard the data what you have in your organization? What is the retention period of the data? Why are you collecting this data and limiting that purpose to the specified collection criteria, as well as correcting the data? These are data subject rights, right to access, providing a choice to the data subject whether to whether need to mandatorily give the personal data, or they have a choice to decline giving the personal data. So these are some of the core aspects which is almost same across many data privacy law. That is the reason I suggest, if you study one law in detail, and if it's the best and comprehensive law, it will really help you for any other data privacy laws application, right? And trust me, I've been in this for a long time, and GDPR still is the most comprehensive and stringent law that exists, right? Because it's not just 2016 what we see the GDPR implementation, but GDPR has been the data privacy laws in Europe has been existing for last 40 years. So it's a very well oiled machine. There is a lot of comprehensiveness when it comes to GDPR law in European Union. That's the reason we suggest to start with CIPP, right? And what is records of processing activity? I told you part of the assess stage we will be building your records of processing activity. So when we build a records of processing activity, it's nothing but your visibility of your organization, right? So we need to know what personal data that we are collecting, right? There are categories of personal data. It could be sensitive personal data, it could be children's data, it could be a normal personal data, right? And we also need to know what is the channel of we are collecting. It could be from your website, it could be from your social media, it could be from your business channels, it could be from multiple channels that we collect the personal data, right? We need to know how and where and when we collect the personal data. Whenever we are collecting the personal data, we need to appropriately map it with the lawful basis, right? So the lawful basis will vary from one regulation to another regulation, right? So that is very, very important for us to map what exactly is the purpose of processing this personal data, right? So sometimes you will use contract, you will be using legitimate interest, or sometimes you will be using consent. So we will discuss a lot of nuances of choosing which lawful basis at what appropriate time, right? Many people think consent is the best way of handling your personal data processing, but it will become a very painful part for the organization as well, because consent has a specific requirement that consent can always be reversed at any point of time, right? That is the reason we need to be careful in terms of mapping the right appropriate lawful basis. Yes, we need to empower the data subject, we need to provide them option, but at the same time, when we are working for an organization, we have to look at which lawful basis is appropriate for the organization, and we need to take that call based on the processing activity, right? And what are the security measures that are applied for the data? We need to come up with the retention period. So there is some specific law principles which are established in every data privacy law. We call it a storage limitation principle, where we need to have a specific retention period, right? So retention period is arrived from different factors. It could be from the legal and regulatory requirement, it could be from the purpose of processing, right? So based on that, we need to clearly define the retention period. Also, we need to protect the data in the entire life cycle. We need to define what kind of controls are being defined, and if there are any recipients of the data, whoever is going to get this data, it could be a processor, it could be a third parties, whoever is receiving a copy of our data for any purposes, then we have to maintain that. Even the data could be traveling outside the geographic border of the country, we call it as international data transfer, right? So all these elements has to be captured part of your inventory. That is what we call it as records of processing activity. Very, very important part. Okay. Next, very important question that is usually asked for everyone is that uh, DPIA and PIA. What is the difference between data protection impact assessment and privacy impact assessment? This is a very common confusion area. These are very important distinction that we need to discuss in detail. May not have the time right now, but DPIA is a very GDPR specific term. It came up first time when the GDPR came. Before that, we used to do PIA for different regulations and laws, right? Now, the requirements of when to do what assessment, right? What are the components that we need to capture part of a DPIA? What are the triggers for doing a DPIA? Right? What are the special consideration which the law ask us to do when we do a DPIA? All these things we will be discussing in detail when you join the second sessions, because this is not only from the exam perspective, this is going to be part of your core day-to-day job as well, right? So I'll be sharing templates for you. I'll be sharing a filled DPIA as well, a filled PIA. I'll be sharing multiple templates of how exactly it's done, so that it's not just a theory course which I'm trying to push for you, but I'm trying to make you understand how do you do it in practice as well, right? And we will be developing a part of the protect phase, which is the second stage of the life cycle. We'll be developing the policy procedures, as well as we will be ensuring the organization understand a structured approach of handling personal data, right? So we will be developing multiple procedural elements which is required by the law as well, right? So this is where we look at the different policies, as well as the organization already have multiple policies, right? So they need to have interplay between the different existing policies. How do we actually sort of derive the requirements from other policies as well? So these are some of the important elements, because we will not change the organization upside down when we are building a privacy program. We have to actually build upon the existing culture, this existing practices. We have to understand the common touch points, then we have to build on top of the privacy practices that is required. So all these interplays and intersections, whatever we have with other existing policy of information security, we will be discussing part of this particular chapter. Privacy by design, you would have heard this term for a very very long time. So privacy by design is very similar to security by design, where we have to embed your security requirements at a very early stage of a project, right? Similarly, privacy design is on the same philosophy, but there are some specific requirements when it comes to privacy by design. There are 7 principles that if you search on internet, you will be easily able to find. But how do you actually build it into an organization, right? So you need to understand that everyone can speak about the 7 principles, but they will struggle in terms of how do you apply that on a hands on, how do you actually convert that into requirements to an organization. So this clarity comes only when you understand the practicing part of it, right? So how do you convert the principles into controls, right? So these you need to have guidance of how do we make it into a organization checklist, how do we convert that into a organization requirement, right? So this is your privacy by design. And we will be discussing international data transfer. International data transfer is very, very specific requirement. Maybe in Indian law, currently the rules doesn't clarify what are the specific nuances, but many global laws have multiple international data transfer instrument. For instance, whatever is projected here is the GDPR international data transfer. You will be studying this in detail in the CIPM course. There are different instruments. There are 3 broader buckets. One is adequacy decision, where countries have been selected by the specific boards, like Indian Data Protection Board, or the central government will be having a blacklist or whitelist of countries where you can freely share the data without any hindrance. And the second is the appropriate safeguard. There are multiple sub instruments which we call it as standard contractual clauses, ad hoc contracts, binding corporate rules, code of conduct, and certification mechanisms. So these are all the sub instruments which are available in the appropriate safeguard. Each of them have a specific usage criteria, and each of them are used by different players in the market, right? So we will see a lot of history about all these instruments. And derogations are generally exemptions. So exemptions of, still if you are not able to find your criteria within the first 2 buckets, you will be probably looking into the derogations. So we will be looking at what are the different derogations, what is the meaning of it, how can we use it on our organization basis day to day. Okay. The next is the transfer impact assessment, part of the international data transfer. If you're going to do any international data transfer, for example, in GDPR and many of the data privacy regulations, laws and regulation, you will have to conduct a transfer impact assessment. So what is a transfer impact assessment? What are the 6 steps which is there part of the transfer impact assessment? Knowing your transfer, identifying the tool, identifying the level of risk that is going to be with the third country, identifying the supplementary measures, and transfer using the supplementary measures with the additional safeguards, and reevaluating in the proper appropriate levels again and again. So these steps we will be discussing in details in terms of what are the transfer impact assessment requirements whenever we are doing international data transfer, right? So these are data privacy design strategies. There are process oriented strategy and data oriented strategy. So these are all new addition to the CIPM course. So these are all very interesting parts. Like many people will speak about design, right? But what is data privacy by design, actual core concept, right? So this we actually study in detail in the CIPT course, but this has been introduced into the CIPM as well, right? So there are 8 design strategies, 4 process-oriented strategy, and 4 data-oriented strategy. Each of these strategies will be explaining in terms of what exactly is the different requirement of each of the strategies. Okay, and these are some of the metric analysis which we do. We do a trend analysis, return on investment, business resiliency, and program maturity. Program maturity is a very important. We call it as PMM, privacy program maturity. It has 5 stages, very similar to your CMMI level, right? So if tomorrow, if your organization goes into second or third year, probably you need to have a privacy maturity modeling, which is like assessing the organization maturity in terms of privacy posture, right? So these are different metrics which we do part of the stage 3 of your data lifecycle, which is your sustain stage. And this is just a extrapolation of that, which is the 5 stages of your PMM model: initial, repeatable, defined, managed, and optimized. So we'll be looking into this 5 stages, and each of them has specific criteria based on which your organization will be categorized into the specific level. Okay. So this is a data breach notification requirement, which is the last phase along with the data subject rights. So there are some specific requirements. For example, 72 hours is the cutoff time to inform the supervisory authority. And what nuances we will be looking at: what constitutes a breach, and how we will be informed supervisory authority, right? And what if a breach happens at a processor end, right? And what are the different use cases? We will be learning through at least 8 to 10 different use cases to understand what are the different situations we need to notify, some situation we do not need to notify, right? All these different use cases I'll be discussing in the session to make you absolutely thorough in terms of when you need to notify, how do you need to notify, what situation you will just notify only the authority, what situation you need to notify both authority as well as the data subject. All these things we will be discussing in detail. Okay.